Stand, we'll call the meeting to order. Begin with the prayer. Today, as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. We may continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city, to make it a better place to live and work. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Murcia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Murcia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez. Here. Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
9 present.
9 present. Recognize Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask my colleagues for a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Arlene Adey, a prominent Lowell businesswoman who passed away this past week. She was the wife of William Adey, who died in May of 1983. She was a resident of Belvedere for many years, but as her son Tom told me the other night at her wake, that she really gained a lot of her strength from being a product of the Acre. She was also a communicant of the Immaculate Conception Church. She attended the Academy of Notre Dame in Tingsboro and was a graduate of a class of 1939. She and her family owned numerous Dunkin' Donuts in the greater Lowell area. She's survived by her daughter, Dr. Janice Adey, and her 3 sons, Don Adey, Robert Adey, and Tom Adey. And she was truly a wonderful individual, a wonderful lady, a terrific mother, grandmother, and business person, and she will be truly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also would like to have a moment of silence with darkened chambers for Holly D. Sullivan, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. William Sullivan. Holly died unexpectedly at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston from injuries sustained as a pedestrian in a motor vehicle accident. She worked in her father's tuxedo shop, Sully's Tuxedo. Mr. Sullivan was always outgoing and very cooperative in helping with the community, and we share Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan's loss. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would also like to add Fire Lieutenant Peter F. Sullivan, Jr. Mr. Sullivan was a retired member of the Lowell Firefighters, was a personal friend and neighbor of mine when he lived on Otis Street many years ago, and also when he moved to Alcott Street. He had a family who is very proud tradition in Lowell. Many of them are very active in their community. His son-in-law, Peter Finnegan, is on the Board of Parks, survived by his wife, Ginger, and a lovely family, so he will certainly be missed as well. Please rise for a moment of silence and darkened chambers in their memory. May they rest in peace. The first item on the agenda this evening is a proclamation that was requested by the mayor of Saint-Dave-Osage in France. As you may remember, last year the mayor sent a delegation here that we welcomed in the city of Lowell. The proclamation is for a celebration they are having in their city, which celebrates the 500th anniversary of the naming of America. We wish the mayor well in his festivities in France, and so on his behalf we are proclaiming the month of June 2007 as America's 500th birthday. So I want to announce that to the council, and this proclamation will be forwarded on to our colleague in France.
Can I deliver it?
Yeah.
Certainly, Councilor, if you want to deliver it, we'll have to take that up with the city manager when he returns and look for some funding for that. I think our colleague, former Councilor Mayor Howe, actually did visit this city sometime while he was mayor, I think in the 70s, so it may be time for a return trip. Next item on the agenda are the minutes of the June 12th meeting for acceptance. Any
Move
corrections?
to approve.
Motion approved by Counselor Caulfield, second by Counselor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, the first item are communications from the manager, responses to council motions and requests. Any questions or comments, Counselor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not a communication. I filed a motion approximately 2 months ago, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the manager. And I asked that the purchasing department would reach out to the Lowell businesses and try to work with them to be part of the purchasing process. And Manager Lynch did send a positive reply back and said that his administration would do everything humanly possible to invite the local businesses to participate in the bidding process. Well, I'm doing some painting in my home, and I'm buying all my supplies from one of the local paint stores. And they inform me that the city purchased 100 gallons of pool paint from a business in Tewksbury. And the Lowell businesses didn't even have a chance to bid on this purchase. And I said it 2 months ago, the businessmen and women in Lowell pay the bills, pay the taxes, and they pay an extraordinary high tax because of our tax structure. So I would like to see every business participate in the bidding process. They're the ones who should be part of that process, and not somebody from out of town. It's not fair, and that's the gist of my concerns. 100 gallons of pool paint, you're looking at $4,000 to $5,000. So I imagine there's 4 businesses in Lowell who deal in paint. They could certainly put a bid in if they wanted to, and they could probably supply the city with that paint. And I think it's just right and fair that we reach out and treat them a little bit better than a suburban business. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other items under communications from the city manager? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept the communication placed on file by Counselor Milonazo, second by Counselor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communications are accepted. We have one request to consider an item out of order. This is the school department vote for the letter of interest to be submitted. Any objection to taking that matter out of order? So moved by Counselor Elliott, second by Counselor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We'll consider that matter now. It's a vote authorizing the superintendent of schools to submit Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest dated June 15, 2007 for funding consideration for replacement of the Varnum Elementary School located at 158 Rogers Street in Lowell. Motion to waive the full reading by Counselor Ramirez, second by Counselor Rita Mercia. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. The second reading by title, a vote authorizing the superintendent of schools to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, the MSBA, a statement of interest dated June 15, 2007 for funding consideration for replacement of the Varnum Elementary School located at 115 6th Street and the Moody Elementary School located at 158 Rogers Street. Any questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Ramirez? Yes. Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the vote is approved. Next item under communications from the city manager, we have a presentation from the Lowell Plan on cultural matters. I know Mr. Cook is here from the Lowell Plan, LZ Nunn from Cool. Mr. Coggins, do you have any introductory remarks, or perhaps Councilor Donahue?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, I had given the report of the subcommittee a couple of weeks ago and indicated that Mr. Cook from the Lowell Plan as well as Mount Auburn Associates would be here tonight to make the presentation of the updated cultural plan to the council as a whole. It was the sense of the subcommittee that this was of that importance, that it was important that every member of the subcommittee hear from the consultant and from the Lowell plan regarding the suggested plan, and that after hearing it, perhaps take action and adopt this as the updated plan. As I stated a couple of weeks ago, it hasn't been updated since 1987, I believe, and so clearly the cultural community has changed dramatically in these 20 years. And so without further ado, I guess it would be appropriate to turn this over to the folks who've done the work and actually paid for it. And again, thank you, Mr. Cook and the Lowell plan for funding an important study.
Thank you, Councilor. Can everybody hear okay? We were asked, actually this started, to go back a little bit, this started when under Mayor Armin Mercier formed a subcommittee or a task force to take a look at cultural activities in the city. And I believe it was chaired by Councilor Donahue and at the time Councilor Martin, now Mayor Martin, and Councilor Ramirez was on it. And I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, but we've been working with that subcommittee. And about a year ago, what we really came to realize is that the city was in definite need of upgrading or updating and producing a new cultural plan. As was mentioned by Councilor Donahue, the last time it had been done was 1987. Lowell's cultural landscape has dramatically changed in the 20 years since that first plan was done, and we felt it was sufficient time to step back and take a look at where we were going culturally, not just with the nonprofit segment of the economy, but also what we call the creative economy, which is the private artist, and with all of the effort that the city's made in attracting artists here through the Artist Live workspace and some of the shops we've seen set up downtown. We've hired Mount Auburn Associates about a year ago to come up with a plan, and I'm going to ask Beth Siegel to come to the mic and just sort of walk you through very briefly the various components of the plan that you have in front of you. This is it here. Our goal is to meet with as many organizations and groups in the community and really outline this for them, and to have all of the agencies in town sort of buy in, if you will. And we think that that process needs to start here with the city fathers and the city council chamber. So ultimately what we're looking for is your endorsement of this plan. We have met with Cool. I'm meeting tomorrow night with the Artist League of Lowell, and besides having interviewed over 40 or 50 different people in the community, that process is really, for us, beginning with the completion of this plan. So if I could introduce Beth Siegel to briefly walk you through it, and you could follow along in your reports. And we have Elsie Nunn, as you know, the director at Cool, who is a critical part of this plan. We really needed Cool's buy-in and support of this plan, and to date, they've been really super to work with. So if I could turn it over to Beth Siegel, and she'll walk you through it. Okay. Ms. Siegel, welcome.
Thank you. What I want to do is walk you through this plan, and as was noted, I think it's a little different over the last 20 years. 20 years ago, when we talked about a cultural plan, the focus was really on nonprofit cultural institutions. But we've looked at the whole role that arts and culture play in an economy, and we realize that it's a lot more than just the nonprofit cultural institutions. There's an incredibly rich group of individual artists who are an important part of the cultural fabric of Lowell. And there are also commercial businesses throughout Lowell that are involved with creating creative products and creative services. So when we talk about a cultural plan, we're really talking about trying to integrate and take as much advantage as possible of the synergies of how the individual artists, the nonprofit cultural institutions, and commercial creative businesses can work together to really help Lowell get to the next level of community revitalization and economic growth, because that's what we really believe this plan is about. We have a vision for Lowell, and it's a vision of Lowell as a community and as a city of world culture. It's a unique place. I would recommend that, we can't go through it now, but that each of you read about what we see as the destination. It's on pages 3, 4, and 5, and it really lays out what Lowell could look like 20 years from now if we are able to implement the recommendations in this strategic plan. I also want to note that what you see before you is really an executive summary of the plan itself, not the entire, all the findings that led to this plan. But I want to start with guiding principles, because it's really critical that when you look to reaching this destination, that the community share a set of principles for this work. And the first and foremost principle in our minds is making the authenticity a key to successful cultural economic development. In other words, we think Lowell is a unique place, and we think Lowell's future as a cultural destination, as a cultural place, means building on what is unique and authentic and different about Lowell. Don't try to be what every other community is. Try to really take advantage of the assets and what makes Lowell a special place and authentic. We think it's critical to broaden our thinking beyond funding. When we first started this project, what everyone wanted to talk to us about is how to get more money. And we think that there's a lot more to a successful cultural plan than just increasing funding. It's how do you focus on new products, new markets, and smart business practices. We think collaboration is going to be a key to creating connections and economic efficiencies, and it's a key principle that you'll see throughout the strategy. We think that it's important that Lowell dare to think bigger and larger. Instead of thinking about, I think there's a tendency to think of yourself as a small city and to think small. Your cultural institutions are significant and are as important as most larger cities, and it's important to think about yourself in that context, that you are a significant cultural center. It's important to execute the plan strategically, to focus on your cultural assets, and to gauge performance. This is an important principle that you'll see throughout the project. When the city invests its money, whether it's in COOL, whether it's in any organization or institution in the cultural economy, it's important that there are performance measures and that the city and that those organizations are held accountable for performance. Another key principle is honing the message to make sure there's a clear message about Lowell as a cultural city, and to integrate into the city life of the community, the entire community. One thing that was said to us in a lot of our meetings is that Lowell remains a city of anthills, of the youth, the individual artists, the Brazilian community, the Latino community, the Cambodian community. Our goal in this cultural plan is to integrate all those little anthills into one set of community life and cultural life of the city of Lowell. And we think that is the way to the future destination that we see, which really builds upon Lowell as a world city and a city of world culture. So that leads to the 5 goals that we set out for the cultural plan: strengthening the cultural organizations and artists of Lowell, enhancing your product, promoting creative business development, building new leadership, and shaping the image. And I'm going to start with what I think the most important and fundamental one is, which is strengthening your cultural institutions. I think when the subcommittee of the council first looked at creating a cultural plan, it was because of a concern that your cultural institutions remain fragile. So we tried to focus on that specific issue. And one of the things we decided in terms of this strategy is that right now, again, individual artists have their organizations, nonprofit organizations have their own organizations, and we felt the way to strengthen the entire city, individual artists, and the cultural organizations was to better consolidate and integrate the resources for the cultural institutions and the individual artists. So we're talking about consolidating a lot of the cultural support activity into COOL, but that means broadening COOL itself, so that COOL, which is now the city's cultural organization, would play a stronger role in terms of promoting the individual artist as well as the nonprofit cultural institutions, and that its board would expand to include youth, individual artists, and some of the community groups and minority groups that have often been left out and marginalized in the process. We think, again, in terms of gauging performance, that it's important to develop benchmarks and hold COOL accountable for these activities and for what it's going to do. And one of the ideas we had was to consolidate a lot of the financing that the city is already spending on culture through what we're calling a COOL pool, which would be taking a lot of money that's already out there, consolidating it, and creating a $300,000 pool of funding for the operations of cultural commercial activities in the cultural sector, nonprofit cultural activities, and individual artists. So basically, we're strengthening and broadening the role of COOL in this community. Second, and is a related one, is streamlining the approach to festivals and events. This city is a city of festivals. It has an incredible number of strong festivals, but some of them, working together, they can be strengthened and supported, and that is what we're focusing on. And we're also talking about increasing cultural collaboration, that a lot of the cultural organizations are operating and are fragile, but we think there's an important role for them to create some efficiencies in terms of how they operate. Not every cultural institution needs to have its own education center, its own, a lot of its own activities. There are some areas where there are possibilities for collaboration. Second is to enhance the cultural product. Quickly, one of the areas we think to focus on is for Lowell to start working with the other communities in the Merrimack Valley and create what we're calling the Greater Merrimack Valley Cultural Corridor. There's some effort already on that part with the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Commission or Council receiving some funding from the Mass Cultural Council to start working on some of these initiatives. The idea is, instead of Lowell just having its own open studio day, having an entire Merrimack Valley open studio day, developing some events that are really focused on the entire Merrimack Valley, and creating a level of scale that Lowell itself cannot achieve. One recommendation that there was clear consensus on from everybody was that the Smith-Baker Center is one of the city's jewels that has been underappreciated and not taken advantage of to the extent possible. We're talking about a major effort to make that a new cultural center, to get the funds to really bring that building back to its glory, and creating a new center for cultural life, a new home for the Anchor Dance Company, the New England Orchestra, a venue for the UMass and for the Middlesex Community College, a new youth arts center, really making the Smith-Baker a real center and focal point for community life. And also bringing in people from around the world on an urban residency program to raise the international image of Lowell in the community, having a Kerouac residency every summer so that poets from around the world might come to Lowell and live, creating a world cultural residency to have cultural organizations nominate artists from their culture to come to Lowell for the summer to live. So it's a way to, again, enhance Lowell's image throughout the world. Third goal is to promote creative business development. In our mind, every artist, individual artist, is a small business. There are cultural products being created by individuals throughout Lowell. How can we help them take this informal activity, market it, and become a better operating business, create more economic activity in Lowell and more jobs in Lowell? We have a strategy around building a creative business partnership and promoting some commercialization of creative activities related to the University of Lowell. Fourth, we want to engage youth and students in Lowell's cultural life and have a whole set of recommendations around that, and a set of recommendations around creating new cultural gateways into the city from the different cultural groups. Finally, the fifth goal is to shape the image, to create a Lowell image project. One of the things we've noted to many people we've spoken to is that we have heard many taglines associated with Lowell. Over the years, there have been 4 or 5 different Lowell brands that have been promoted by different organizations. We think, in general, a lot of these brands and a lot of these taglines sound a little defensive, as if it's like there's a lot to like about Lowell. Well, we think, it sounds like you're trying to convince people of this. We think there's time that all the groups who have been working on these kind of image issues come together and create an image of Lowell that's positive and that really is shared by all the cultural institutions throughout the city, as well as related to the downtown development, business development, and all the efforts by the city to develop itself. And we think it's time that the city have a more unified cultural e-blast. What we're saying is that, it's hard to find out what's going on in Lowell. There are a number of different individuals and organizations that send out information about what's going on a given day or given weekend. I get them every day from different organizations. It's time that there's one very high quality e-blast which informs people throughout the region about the types of cultural activities there are to do in Lowell. So we think that's the plan, that there's an important roadmap of bringing people together, convening people, exploring new sources of funding so that you're not dependent on city funding for this activity, but there's federal agency grants, and some of which LZ has already started to pursue, national foundation grants, new public sources of funds. And together, that new source of funding with more efficient business operations, more collaborations, we think can take Lowell's cultural life to the next level. Again, we work all over the country. We think Lowell is an incredible place in terms of its cultural infrastructure. It's unusual, it's unique, it has incredible assets, and it's now time to take those assets to the next level to make it a key element of your city's future. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Siegel. Questions, comments from members of the council? Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a comment, and I know that many years ago we took a lot of flack from the fact that we sent people over to the Bellagio to bring back ideas, and I see one of the things that they're talking about is to model our city after others, and I think that's a good idea. We learn from other people, and modeling that is the best form of flattery, and I see a water fire Providence. Water fire has become a significant art event in Providence, Rhode Island that has attracted a growing audience. I firmly believe that. We have an asset right here in the city, and that is our canals,
Right.
and we don't do anything with them but hang clothes out.
Right.
But that's okay. It's all right that the clothes are there. There's a particular piece of clothing that if I ever be able to fit in that, that would be outrageous. But that is something that is, I really like it. It's something different. We're thinking outside the box, so to speak. But I firmly believe that we ought to do something with our waterways. Put up the water and add colored lights or whatever. Draw something into the city, at least if they come in here once. And they might want to stay and go to a restaurant or see a show in Lucy Lackham Park in a film festival. You know, outside venues are nice. The Spinner Stadium, they like to go see baseball and take part in that. Outside Boarding House Park, in the summer, they like to go out. Wouldn't it be nice in Lucy Lackham Park we can have an outside theater where they can see a film or whatever? I mean, these are things that should be happening in our city, and it's good that you put together a wonderful brochure of a lot of ideas, and that's what it is. But I don't want to just sit this on the shelf. I know it takes money, but if we can raise money for a Winterfest, maybe we can raise money to improve our canal system and draw people in here. That's what it's all about, to bring in businesses. I mean, our businesses are good enough to set up shop in the city. Let's try to go above and beyond to bring in through advertising. And so these are good things that I see. And I also like your comment about the Smith-Baker Center. There is a tagline with the Smith-Baker Center that it was donated to the city many, many years ago. It can never be used for another form of religion in that place, but we can use it for something about the city. I think it's a great idea with the magnificent structure upstairs to have performances, and people forget about that, just like they forgot about the second floor to the library, and through the efforts of this council generating $10 million to create it with the taxpayers in the city, it's a work of art just like this place across the street. So I'm very happy about this presentation. I haven't gone through the whole book, but what I've seen I'm impressed by. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As most of my colleagues know, I have the good fortune of sitting on the board of directors of the Lowell Plan, so I actually have been involved working with the Lowell Plan and Mount Auburn Associates in reviewing this proposal as a work in progress, if you will. And it is, in my opinion, a collaborative cultural action plan. I don't believe it's going to sit on the shelf. I really think that, based upon, and I hope that this council endorses this evening, and based upon the good work that the planning process, if you will, bringing all of the various cultural organizations together and the nonprofit groups together, I really do believe that this, come the fall of 2007, will be a plan of action, and we'll get underway. And I think that, based upon the fact that it's been 20 years since the last cultural plan has been done, I think it was very timely that this was put forward. I think that looking at the marketing efforts, bringing back. There's a lot to like about Lowell. I think is important. I think from the standpoint of using this tool as an economic development tool, I think is very important. So again, I want to congratulate Mount Auburn Associates and Cool and the city and the Lowell plan. I think that they've done just a tremendous job in putting this cultural roadmap, if you will, together. And I'd like to, if I could, Mr. Mayor, actually file a motion or request that we endorse this evening. Go on record endorsing this plan this evening.
Second.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councilor. I know a few people want to be heard. Councilor Caulfield.
Yes, very briefly, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Jim Cook, the Lowell plan. The presentation that you offered this evening was excellent. Also, the Theodore Edson Parker Foundation, the Cultural Organization of Lowell, UMass Lowell, and Greater Lowell Community Foundation. Art is the handmaid of human good. That's the signature of Lowell. And I agree that the Smith-Baker Center is a diamond in the rough. And I know that I brought motions forward, Mr. Manager, about state and federal funding. There is no funding there. And I believe to bring that beautiful building back to its original state is, you're looking at $500,000. Over, how much?
$5 million.
$5 million. Well, I knew I was close with a 5, so, but $5 million, that's quite a lot of money. So, but it is a beautiful facility. Many of great shows have been put there, and that was the dream of former City Councilor Grady Mulligan, to restore that to a beautiful theater where people could enjoy. It holds about 700 people, and that's my dream too, to bring that facility back. So, thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I also am very pleased with this report and very appreciative of everyone who participated in it. When I brought this motion in as mayor, it became apparent to me that cultural activities in the city of Lowell fuels economic engines, and that there were so many groups working at cross purposes that I felt that someone had to get together and see if we could find a path that cultural activities could take place under some sort of single roof, so that not everybody is competing with everybody to accomplish the same goal. And so I'm very, very appreciative of the fact that the objective to consolidate and increase funding and support for cultural activity in Lowell under COOL became an objective, and one of the first objectives, because it's got to be under some city agency, and I couldn't think of a better place than under our organization, COOL, that is directly associated with the city. I want to thank the task force. It consisted of an awful lot of people that met at 7:30 in the morning, and then especially the subcommittee of the City Council that carried it forward and brought it to where it is today. It has exceeded my expectations far beyond what I expected would come out of this. So I'm very proud to have been an initiator of this, but more importantly, I'm thankful to everyone who participated and brought about this great plan, and I most certainly will endorse this motion that we adopt this as the City of Lowell's cultural plan and begin implementation as we can in a very near future. Thank you.
Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. I'd like to echo the comments of Councilor Mercier. There were, so many people who worked very hard on the task force and the subcommittee, and this has been months and months in the working. So it's not a plan that was kind of slapped together haphazardly, but there's been a tremendous amount of input. The other part of it, as has been noted, it's 20 years and long overdue for the city to take action. But the good part about this plan is it doesn't require capital or resources to start implementing the plan. And because there's a lot of good ideas and reorganization and redoubling of efforts in certain areas. And so, sometimes plans get derailed right out of the box because you don't have X number of dollars or millions of dollars that you can dedicate to it. And I think what's commendable about this plan is it realized in terms of a very practical way that there's specific steps that the City of Lowell can take without, taxing resources and utilizing the resources that are already in our system, in our budget, and in our cultural world. So I certainly endorse the plan and hope that it is adopted by the council so that we can move forward on many different aspects that have been very carefully and very clearly outlined in the plan.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. This is through you, Mr. Mayor, to I guess Jim or what is the next? I'm sorry, I forgot Miss Siegel. I'm looking at goal number 5, action, which is sort of what I look forward to. What is next? It said some of these ideas that the group is going to be led by the Lowell plan. Is that the case for you? I'm looking forward ahead. It is a good report, and I attended a couple of the meetings, but a lot of people did put a lot of time and effort. But I'm looking, okay, where do we go from here? The report will be released in the fall of '07, and what's the next step?
Well, I want to make sure that the council understands that we're committed to the implementation of this plan, and we feel that it's a wise investment if we implement it, and that basically it wouldn't have been a wise investment if it just sits on a shelf. So for us, it's to convene all of the various organizations and entities in the city and really start discussing with them the implementation steps. The one you just picked up, which is goal number, each goal has its own implementation strategy. And the one that you're referring to about the city's marketing and image campaign is really going back to something we started with in 1998, which was a collaboration or partnership, if you will, with the city. And it was a subcommittee of the Lowell plan and the city. And we discussed everything from public relations to marketing. And so the involvement of the Lowell plan, or taking the lead through that committee, is really only on the image campaign. The other steps all have different factors and different agencies involved. But I think, as was said, I think by Councilor Mercy, and just to repeat it, we see COOL as the sort of overall umbrella agency in the city for a lot of the cultural activity that needs to take place. So, that's where we start, and that's where hopefully this ends. And over the next 3 or 4 months, we're going to be meeting with them and discussing ways, again, all through the city, but of sort of reinventing their board and their mission and expanding their membership and so on and so forth. So we're looking at, over the next 2 or 3 months, a series of implementation phases. Short term, the Smith-Baker Center, that's a long-term goal, clearly. We put it in there because we don't want to leave it out. It's just too nice a location, too much of a jewel to not address that. But it does require a significant amount of funds. However, as you've seen with projects of significant size in the city, when people put their minds to them, they can get them done. And I think if we put our minds to the Smith-Baker Center, I think we can accomplish that. It is not in here just for dressing. We really seriously intend to get that project addressed. It's the only one that requires some significant capital funds. As Councilor Donahue mentioned, a lot of the steps that we've proposed in here are either no funding and just really a lot of new partnerships and discussions and whatnot, because we didn't want to come in with a solution that just was requiring the city to come up with more money.
Well, and that's why I was going to ask Elsie to come up either now or at a later point to say, COOL is going to be the coordinator of these goals, and you're applying for grants because funding is limited on the city level, and I'll presume some of that has started. Could you give us just a
Sure, a quick update. It's actually just been, this plan has just been endorsed by the COOL Board of Directors. So we have a board of directors of 19 people, and they are all supportive of this plan and also connected and very interested in helping with the implementation and the planning of how this plan will be implemented. There are certain things that we will certainly hone in the upcoming months. And in terms of funding, we're constantly looking for opportunities, and we've just identified a new opportunity, a federal grant called a Preserve America grant. That's a federal grant through we found out about it in connection with the National Park Service, and so they would be one of the partners in the grant, along with the city, the CVB, and many others, around sort of branding Lowell's cultural destinations and heritage organizations, so that we can kind of brand these under one envelope and work with some of these strategies, including the unified cultural e-blast, unified cultural calendar, and also a website and brochure that capture Lowell's vast arena of cultural existing entities and also events. So.
Well, I was intrigued by the presentation that we have a lot of the assets here. And,
Yes.
sort of the constant theme that came up in your presentation was collaboration with businesses, economic development. All of these things need to be tied together. It just sort of is a message that Cool, using this report and the analysis, is sort of going to take the lead and start, putting these relationships together and developing and implementing the strategies and the ideas that are in here.
Yes, I think Cool has been working as a public and private partnership. We'll work very closely with the Lowell plan and with all of our partners within the city to help kind of accomplish the goals and also fine tune, where certain things haven't been, completely worked out. That's where we want to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So there's a motion on the floor made and seconded to adopt this plan as the cultural plan for the city. Any requests for a roll call? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The plan is adopted. Again, thank you, Mr. Cook and Ms. Siegel and Elsie, Ms. Nunn, for all your efforts on this, and also thanks to those who served on the task force. It was many, many hours, and a lot of effort went into this, and I think we're all proud of the result that was achieved. So thank you all for your efforts. Okay. We will move to the public hearings now. The first public hearing is an ordinance creating new positions, deleting and abolishing some positions, amending compensation of certain employees, and other changes, all consistent with and included in the City of Lowell budget for fiscal year 2008, passed by the City Council on May 30, 2007. We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to be heard in favor. Anybody wishing to be heard in favor of this ordinance? Anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anybody in opposition? Anybody want to be heard in opposition to this ordinance? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Motion approved by Councilor Milanazzo, second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Milanazzo.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Coggins. It's my understanding, based upon the memo that we received from Manager Lynch, that the CFO salary in the ordinance is being reduced to $105,833. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct, okay. That was the only change that I could see relative to the ordinance itself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you very much. That motion was made real quick. I have a couple of questions as it relates to the ordinance, but before I get into it, I do have a question. One of them was answered already by the question Mr. Milanazzo, Councilor Milanazzo had. But there's also another item in here that I had brought to the attention of the manager last week about a third assistant city manager. It's my understanding that that's been zeroed out, so that position is not being created, and it's not going to be a part of this ordinance. Is that right? Because there seems to be some confusion that it's my understanding when something's zeroed out, it's gone. So there will not be a third, quote, assistant city manager, as was proposed 2 weeks ago, inadvertently, I'm sure. Is that right? By zeroing it out? Okay. The other one is the assistant city manager, director of planning and development. Can you just run that by us a little bit for the general public to understand why that salary is going to be getting the increase it's getting? I understand there are reasons for that through you, Mr. Coggins, that Mr. Moses can explain, that the general public is not aware of. We are by this memo. I'd like to have that run by us.
Sure.
For the public.
As you know, department heads now, going back, I guess, 6 or 7 years ago, gave up their status with a union.
Yes.
As part of that, an ordinance was put in place that outlined merit and cost of living increases that would take effect on either on July 1st and then again on January 1st. Each year we've been asked to budget for those in our department. We did so last year. In January, I was notified that I would not get that bump as established by the ordinance because my existing salary was the last number on the existing grid. And therefore, even though it had been budgeted, and even though it was a standing ordinance with the City of Lowell, it was not going to be funded. This number before you is that number that I would have received in January when every other department head received their increase.
Okay. And that's what changes the number from the
Correct.
last time. It's something you had coming to you that you didn't get because you were at the end of your tier.
Correct.
Okay, and now this budget fiscal 08 is restoring that.
That's
Is
correct.
How much money is that in terms of dollars? Couple of
It's, I think,
$1,000?
$2,300.
Okay.
It's a 2% increase.
Okay.
Could I just cut into that
Yeah,
statement right there? So through you, Mr. Mayor, to you, Mr. Coggins, so you're going from 105 to 107,
That's correct.
but 2 weeks ago it was 105 to 109.
That was a different adjustment
Okay,
that
and
Manager
that's what I was
Lynch-
objecting to, not your increase. Everybody deserves an increase. But I felt that it was 4,000 and it should have been to 107, and that's what it stands right now. And I can accept that.
Correct.
That to me is proper, and that's what I was talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
It's all right. I'd like to get into the ordinance itself that's before us. Under Appendix A, there is the creation of an assistant to the city manager for $82,000. There is also an executive assistant, which actually is a position that replaces another position that was in that office. So I have no problem with that. I do have a problem, however, with the assistant to the city manager's job at that price, simply because this budget reflects some serious consequences as it relates to our budgetary, our revenue source. I feel that this is not the time to be creating a position for $82,000, particularly when we have department heads under the Assistant City Manager of Planning and Development, Mr. Moses, and also T.J. McCarthy, who are giving the manager the support he needs to carry out the wishes of the planning form of government. I think that when we have to cut budgets where a veterans officer needs to leave, where other people are getting laid off, and some of them are being bumped, and I don't think this is the time to create that position. I don't fault the manager for wanting that position. As I think Jim Milanazzo pointed out at the last meeting, the manager should put a team together. I think there is a team already, and that I think this particular position should not be adopted in this ordinance this year, only because of the kind of revenue problems that we're having. So I don't know how to handle this. I was hoping we could take this Appendix A, B, C, because, well, let me tell you my concerns, and then I'll probably make some substitute motion, at least get it off on the table. The other thing is, we, in the city clerk's office, we're keeping a clerk of committees position for $1. Now, that's my understanding, is to keep the position. Well, I feel if the city clerk has made a decision that he can handle that task, that position should be zeroed out also, and let that clerk of committees be handled by the city clerk as he indicated he would, and his assistant. The other one I had, of course, was the administrative assistant to the city manager for $1. I don't know what that is. You did take care of the assistant city manager's position, thereby not having a third one, but how does the administrative assistant to the city manager for $1 differ from the executive assistant? Is this something that the manager is planning, are you aware of filling immediately, or can someone just explain to me why that's continued as a position and funded for $1?
First of all, there are no plans to fill that position, and there's no funding to do so. So it's essentially impossible. The practice of putting $1 in certain positions that were not funded in the budget is really just a reminder that a position was downsized, and rather than have it disappear from the schedules entirely for future years, it's a reminder that we have contracted our staff, and that possibly at some future year we may want to restore those positions. That's really the purpose, and that falls squarely into the realm of the clerk of committees. I don't think anyone would like to see a position like that, especially with so many committee meetings in Lowell, be eliminated and gone from the radar. Eventually, if funding allows, we'd like to see that position return.
So these positions that are funded for $1 are actually to keep the positions alive. They're not to do anything else than that.
Exactly.
In the event that there's money later on, it doesn't have to come back to be created, an ordinance and all of that. That's basically what it is.
Correct.
Okay? All right. I would like to move at this point. I don't want to make a substitute motion. I'd like to amend the motion to adopt this ordinance to eliminate the new position of assistant to the city manager, and also the clerk of committee's position for $1 be eliminated.
Second.
Second.
All right, so that's a motion and substitution by Counselor.
Actually, it would be an amendment, because I don't want to substitute. There are certain parts of this that I support, so, but you treat it any way you want.
Well, fine, it can be
Okay.
an amendment. Yeah, a motion to amend by Counselor Armin
Point of
Mercia.
order.
Yeah.
Does the maker of the amendment to my motion need the original maker's permission to amend the motion?
Well, if that's the case, I move in substitution that we eliminate the position of assistant city manager for $82,000.
I don't want to get bogged down in the procedure.
Well, no,
Fine,
I mean-
fine. Yeah, motion and substitution.
I'll make a motion of substitution that doesn't
Okay.
require his permission for me to do this.
All right.
I move in substitution that the ordinance be adopted with the deletion of the new position of assistant to the city manager and the clerk of committee position.
Okay. So
That's-
moved by Counselor Armin Mercia, second by Counselor Rita Mercia. Counselor Caulfield?
Councilor Mercia brought everything forward that I wanted to say. I can't support those two new positions, and I told the manager that 6 weeks ago, so I'm not going to go back on my words.
Okay, any further discussion? Counselor Elliott?
Well, I think we just need to set the record straight, because I think that's, there's a lot of misnomers that are being stated here. To the people watching at home, there are no new positions. In fact, this $82,000 is going to be a reduction from the current position that is an assistant city manager. So I just want people at home to know that we are in tight fiscal times. I'm going to support this because it reduces the number of positions, it restructures the manager's office. He's entitled to it. Every single city manager comes in, restructures his budget, or, well, it's only his budget, his staff, excuse me, and I think this is a reduction, so I'm going to support it. This isn't about the merit of increasing or decreasing or saving or positions, because there's no consistency from budget to budget. So it makes sense if the manager wants to have a change in position and reduce the salary, then I'm going to support it. Mr. McCarthy is going over to DPW. He's going to assume a lot of the responsibilities that he has now, and it's a restructuring. And this isn't spin. No one's trying to cover it. It's really just what the manager's trying to do. He's not creating new positions, and I don't want the people at home to think that while we're looking at layoffs that the manager's going top-heavy and inflating his office, because that's not accurate and it's not true. So I'm going to support it because they're not new positions, they're restructured, and there's a reduction. And both of these appendices reflect it.
Thank you. Counselor Donahue?
Thank you. I just wanted to note, based on my understanding, the positions that were slated for layoffs have either been restored or those individuals are being offered other positions within the city. If they haven't all been offered, that they're in the process of doing that. That was of concern to me when we went through the budget process. We sent it back to the manager on night one of the budget hearings, and it came back the next night with some of those positions restored to the budget, and then others we were assured the city would work hard to make offers to those individuals, albeit not in the same department, but offer employment. And it's my understanding that that is either has been done or is in the process of being done. So, I just want to make the record clear on that. Nobody wants to see people, lose their jobs at this time of year. Or in this economy. And I said it then, and I'll say it again. I think our city employees have done a very good job. They've stood by the city. And so and I understand the tough times, but I'm pleased that the efforts have been made to find everybody employment who chooses to take the offer. And the work continues, and I will support the restructure Councilor Elliott has outlined.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't going to get involved with this discussion. I was just going to vote no, but you can play with words all you want. Mr. Manager, are there 2 new people going to be hired in the city of Lowell? One for $82,000 and one for $42,138.
There will be 2 new people here, yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Coggins or Mr. Moses, this is, we could talk about this all night and how we're going to try and put it and wordsmith it, but in my opinion, it's a pretty easy call. The manager's going to restructure and move people around, and we're going to, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe at the last meeting, Mr. Moses, maybe you can help me out here, this restructuring will actually save the city $11,000?
Two things are going on. There are a couple of departments that are affected, the city manager's department, DPW, and the new finance group. But overall, at the end of fiscal '08, when we wind up, there'll be 1 fewer position in those 3 departments. We will come out pretty close to even in fiscal '07, and the reason is the Commissioner of Public Works is staying on through December. But after December, when the Assistant City Manager and the Commissioner positions are essentially combined, future years you will actually be saving considerable money, probably in the range of $50,000 a year every year, because we've lost 1 position.
Thank you. So essentially, these 2 new names, new positions, we're going to be transferring people from DPW, eliminating a position at DPW, and moving someone out of the manager's office over there, Mr. McCarthy, and essentially saving money doing it. Correct?
Right. We're moving people, and in some cases, people are shifting positions. We're trying to find homes for everybody, and we have to a large extent. But in the game of musical chairs, there's 1 fewer chair that we'll have.
Okay. To me, I'm going to support the restructuring. To me, it's a no-brainer. We're going to actually eliminate a position as opposed to creating 2. We can name them whatever we want, but in the long run, in 6 months, we're going to eliminate a position, save more money, and have a restructuring, and hopefully be more efficient. So I'm going to support the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If we're creating 2 and eliminating 1, aren't we creating 1 then?
We're actually, if you look at this, we're, aside from the transfers, we're eliminating a DPW head administrative clerk. That's 1. We're eliminating a DPW principal clerk. That's 2. We are losing into the merger the DPW commissioner. That's 3. We are adding an assistant to the city manager. That's 1. And we are creating an executive assistant position in the manager's office. That's 2. That's a net reduction of 1 position.
But we're still creating 1 position. Or are you going to do this all over again? But let me think out loud. I don't care what you think, but I'm going to think out loud. We have a person in the planning department that is an assistant city manager that is getting a raise, and it's $107,000. Then we have a position with a person that's an assistant city manager going over to a department that is combining a DPW and a Parks department with I don't know how many hundreds of employees that is not really getting a substantial increase in pay. I don't understand how this becomes fair. To me, it doesn't, I don't know. And if we're talking about that he hasn't been here that long, well, you're making $105,000 according to this, what is this, 106, and you haven't been here that long either. And so I really don't see the fairness in where we're going with this. I don't know if Eddie Walsh had an assistant over there in DPW. Did he, Mr. Moses? Or does he?
There were several clerical positions there.
Then why
and there
can't
were
we, are they
reductions.
still there?
I believe one person has transferred over to the law department, and there was one vacant position.
So nobody's there to be an assistant.
Somebody is transferring from the manager's office.
Someone's transferring from the manager's office that was the secretary to the city manager.
Correct.
So we're reshuffling people all around so he can have those people in place that he confides in or whatever.
I'm not sure of all the reasons, but we are moving people around and taking care to make sure that we keep employed all the people we can.
And we are advertising for this position for $82,000 in the paper before we've even voted on it? Because is it in the paper?
I'm not sure. I think that's been advertised
It's already in
already.
the paper. We're advertising for something before a public hearing takes place. I find that kind of not right. I don't find that right. Something here, are we so sure of ourselves that we advertise before the time actually comes where we ask the public to come forward and express their opinion? Luckily, nobody's here to express it because I think they think it's already probably a done deal. I don't know, but I mean, I'm already hearing a name of a person that is going to be filling this, and I don't understand how that becomes fair when we go through the rhythm of advertising for a position that we're hearing a name that the person already has the position. I find that kind of bizarre. But those are my comments of thinking out loud. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Could we move the question on the amendment?
All right, so roll call on the substitute motion.
Mayor Martin,
No.
Councilor Armin Mercia,
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
No.
Councilor Ramirez. No. Councilor Broderick.
No.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
No.
Councilor Elliott.
No.
Motion fails. 3 yeas.
Motion fails, 6 nays, 3 yeas. So roll call on the original motion.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
No.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
No.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez. Yes. Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
No.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
6 yeas, 3 nays. The ordinance.
6 yeas, 3 nays, the ordinance is approved. Next public hearing is a loan order to borrow $19 million for the purpose of financing the cost of upgrade to the Lowell Regional Water Utility water system in the city of Lowell. We'll open this public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this loan order? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Council Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just would like to ask, is this for the water utility upgrade? Or the wastewater?
Water utility, but several projects throughout the city.
It's just strictly with the water utility? It's going to improve our infrastructure and
Yes, and that
so forth.
system, new water tower and a metering system.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Layoff. When you came and get the presentation, one of the pieces of this project was to replace large outdated meters. I shouldn't say large meters. Meters that the larger users. Is that correct? That's part of this. And if I remember correctly, that will save the city, or actually the ratepayers, upwards to $500,000 a year.
Approximately
Is that
$600,000.
approximately $600,000? So, if one were looking to balance the debt, interest and debt versus the benefits from this, getting additional $600,000 could pretty much close to offset that that principal and interest for that note,
It should.
and some. Okay,
Absolutely.
so
It should.
I think this makes all the sense in the world because just, you know, to the people at home, we have these meters at the large users, whether it's I don't know, the university, or what are some our other large users? Industry?
They can be anywhere from industry to complexes to condominium projects. We're going to start at about 1.5 inches and go from anywhere to a 10-inch.
Okay.
But keep in mind that a lot of these meters are fairly new, so it all depends on their efficiency, readings,
Right.
and that'll all be part of the study.
So by replacing these meters, we're going to be gaining, more revenue that we're not getting now because they need to be replaced. They cost money. So I'm going to support this. It makes financial sense that we get money in. It'll provide, and that's just one piece of the improvements to our water system, but it makes financial sense, and I'm going to support it because it's not going to cost the taxpayers nor the ratepayers. Well, those using the ratepayers will have to pay more, but this doesn't go on the tax rate. And I think it's not a true enterprise fund. Is that correct, Mr. Mr. Manager or Mr. CFO? The water is not an enterprise fund. I think it should be, but it's not going to cost taxpayers any more money.
It's not an enterprise fund yet. We're looking at potentially making one into the fiscal year 2009, and depends on the revenue picture. We need to make sure that it's truly self-sustaining, so we don't wind up with another enterprise.
Well, it should be, because we did raise rates quite some time ago, and it does generate revenue now, and this is another revenue source. So I'll look forward to seeing that enterprise fund. But this does make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, too, I think, Mr. Moses. So this $19 million loan, you don't anticipate it to result in a rate increase?
I believe that there was a rate increase in the works anyway, before this loan order. It had always been planned. Maybe the water director can refresh my memory on when the last rate increase incurred. And one thing to remember is inflation doesn't move backwards.
I believe the last rate increase was back in October of '03. This absolutely does incur a rate increase of approximately 26 cents. 26 cents, which would bring our rate to $1.67, 100 cubic feet.
And is that 26 cents net of the anticipated savings down the road in terms that Councilor Elliott was talking about?
No, that's additional.
Okay. Oh, well.
Okay. Further questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none, roll call on the loan order.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Murcia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Murcia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the loan order is approved. Next item, we have 2 requests for out-of-state travel. One is for 1 employee in the police department. The second is for 2 employees in the career center. Any objection to taking them together?
Yes.
Nope. Yes.
I agree. Take them together.
You wish to take them together, Councilor? But you want them separate or together?
No, take them together.
Okay. All right. The motion to approve the request by Councilor Arman Murcia, second by Councilor Milonazo. Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Murcia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Murcia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the travel requests are approved. The next item is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement between the City of Lowell and 2BY 2003 Inc. doing business as Subway for use of a portion of city property adjacent to the premises at 254 Merrimack Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating. There is also a similar vote for a license agreement between the city and Naja Inc. doing business as Angelina's for use of city property adjacent to the premises at 25 Merrimack Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating. Motion to waive the full reading on both of these by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading, say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement between the City of Lowell and 2BY 2003, Inc., doing business as Subway for use of a portion of city property adjacent to the premises at 254 Merrimack Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating, and a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement between the City of Lowell and Naja, Inc., doing business as Angelina's for use of city property adjacent to premises at 25 Merrimack Street for the purpose of sidewalk seating. Any questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas, the license agreements are approved. Next item is a resolution expressing support for the Preserve America grant. This is the grant, I believe, that LZ Nunn had spoken to us about during the presentation earlier. Would authorize, well, let me read the first paragraph. A vote authorizing the Cultural Organization of Lowell and several partner organizations, including Lowell Plan, National Historic Park, UMass Lowell, Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau, applying for the Preserve America federal grant of $75,000 to develop cultural marketing strategy and implementation plan that would successfully brand Lowell as Greater Lowell as region's hub of cultural and heritage activity. There's motion to waive the full reading by Councilor
moved.
Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a vote expressing support, a resolution authorizing support for the Preserve America grant.
So move.
Motion approved by Councilor Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Ramirez. Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez. Yes. Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the resolution is approved. Next item is an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 13, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. This ordinance is to be referred to a public hearing on July 10th. So moved by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The ordinance will be referred to a public hearing on July 10th. The next item is an ordinance to amend the zoning, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A thereof, entitled Lowell Zoning Ordinances, by amending Article 9, Overlay District, and by adding a new Section 9.5, Priority Development Sites, and by amending the zoning map pursuant to Section 3.2 to show the Hamilton Canal District as a priority development site. This matter is to be referred to the Planning Board for report and recommendation. So moved by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Mercia, did you have
No, I
questions?
just approved
Okay.
it.
Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor of referring this to the Planning Board for report and recommendation, say aye. Any opposed? The matter is so referred to the Planning Board. Next item is a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from National Grid USA Service Company, Inc., of $2,000 for use by the Department of Public Works. Motion to waive the first full reading by Councilor Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to accept a gift from National Grid USA Service Company, Inc. of $2,000 for use by the Department of Public Works. This was a gift that enabled us to repair the lights that were damaged by vandalism at Shed Park. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Coggins. Do we have an update as to the status of the criminal investigation? I thought I read or heard that the police department had identified some suspects.
Yeah, we will get you an update.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the vote to accept the gift? Roll call.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez. Yes. Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott. 9 yeas.
No.
And
Councilor Rita Mercia?
And Mr. Mayor, we could send them a beautiful thank you card for that. That's unbelievable that they should do that. Thank you.
We will do that. 9 yeas, the vote is approved. Next item is a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to enter a lease agreement with Top Donut, Inc. for property located on Island Street in Lowell, whereas Robin V. Lay and Wendy Lay, doing business at Top Donut, Inc., are successors entitled to the property formerly owned by Tony Sandwich Shop, Inc., and is desirous of continuing to lease City of Lowell property on Island Street, consisting of approximately 7,800 square feet of land, more or less, for the purpose of parking for patrons and employees. Now therefore be it voted by a 2/3 vote that the city manager is hereby authorized on behalf of the City of Lowell to enter a lease agreement with Robin V. Lay and Wendy Lay, doing business as Top Donut, Inc., for property located at Island Street, containing approximately 7,800 square feet of land, more or less, in Lowell, for a term of 3 years, said lease to be in accordance with the form, substantially the form attached hereto. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager on behalf of the City of Lowell to enter a lease agreement with Top Donut, Inc. et al. For property located on Island Street in Lowell. Any questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas. The next item is a vote approving the exemption of Tammy Hayhurst from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20, whereas Tammy Hayhurst is employed in the City of Lowell Health Department as a nurse, and whereas she desires to accept a position with the school department as a nurse in the summer program, and in order to be employed in the second position, an exemption from the provisions of Section 20 of Chapter 268A is required, whereas in order to qualify for such exemption, employee must satisfy all of the conditions under said Chapter 268A, Section 20B, and whereas the position of nurse in the school department summer program is completely independent department, whereas Tammy Hayhurst filed a statement disclosing the second job with the city clerk, and whereas the second job will be performed outside normal working hours of the first position, and whereas the services to be performed in the school department summer program as a nurse are not part of her duties in her primary job as a nurse for the health department in the city, and whereas she will not be compensated in the second position for more than 500 hours per year, whereas the assistant superintendent of schools is certified no employee of the department is available to perform nursing duties in the summer program. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of Lowell as follows, that the City Council of the City of Lowell hereby approves the exemption of Tammy Hayhurst from the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 268, Section 20. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the exemption of Tammy Hayhurst from the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 268A, Section 20. Any questions? Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia? Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the vote is approved. The next item is an appropriation transfer for fiscal year '07, an amount of $538,471.11 to various accounts from various accounts in the same amount, $538,471.11. Appropriation transfer introduced by City Manager Bernard F. Lynch. Second reading by title, to approve an appropriation transfer to various accounts, the amount of $538,471.11 from various accounts, $538,471.11. Questions? Yes. Councilor Caulfield.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question on the transfers pertaining to the manager's budget. Can anyone answer that? One is for $4,120. One is for $14,025.55. One is for $7,135.83. And one is buyback sick leave for $13,989.31. I just want some clarification what this is all about.
My understanding, Councilor, is these are amounts that would be in the line items at the end of the fiscal year. Instead of becoming free cash at the end of the year, they're being transferred out now to cover the deficits which are outlined on the following page. I do apologize. Mr. Moses had a family matter and had to leave. But
That
that's
this
my
money is being
understanding.
transferred from one line item, it's not being transferred to support new positions or anything like that?
Not at all. I
right.
guess I would defer to the auditor as well, but my understanding is it's just to close out the deficits.
Exactly. What we did at year end is review all the accounts, and instead of taking a lot of this funding from the contingency account, we're internally transferring things. And hopefully at year end, we can take most of what's left in the contingency and cover snow and ice
Okay.
to put us in a better position for next year.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it should be pointed out that the deficits in all of these accounts, the majority of them are because of retirees' sick buyback in a number of departments, fire, police, and also the other departments. So it does add up quite a bit. I do have a question, however, on how the water department, in their line item energy electricity, has an $85,000 extra amount there at this stage of the game. It seems like an awful lot of money that wasn't used, and I'm
I
wondering
think we
why.
transferred in.
Huh?
I believe there was a transfer in earlier.
Right, there was a
Oh, there was.
substantial transfer before, and then we
Okay.
also contracted some of
And
the...
would the same thing apply to the veterans, $110,475?
The veterans, it depends on who actually applies in any one given year, so that actually can be up and down depending on how many apply in any one given year.
So right now, that, as it stands before we vote to transfer it out, the Veterans Service Office has $110,000 that hasn't been used. Now,
Correct.
Why couldn't that be?
That was veterans' benefits, not to be
Oh, I
confused
see.
with salary.
All right, so we couldn't be using that not to cut that budget?
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. That's what I wanted to know.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so this money is going back to offset the deficit?
Correct.
In what particular way? How?
If you look at the second page, it's transferred to the following accounts. All these salary accounts that were
Oh,
in.
it's transferred to the next page?
Correct. So it's
Oh,
all
right.
within the operating budget for the same
Okay.
fiscal year.
So we're transferring certain items from the manager here
To the manager.
to the manager. All right, I see it.
Because how we budgeted this year, it's
Okay.
all individual lines,
Sure,
so
I
we
didn't
have
see
to do it that
next
way.
page. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
So, we do this every year, correct? I mean, this is a regular routine.
Every city and
Sometimes we
town,
do it now, or sometimes there's even corrections when we go to set the tax rate. You're doing it earlier to
Exactly.
try to use the contingency to cover what snow and ice deficit there is,
Yes.
rather than waiting till year end and putting it on the tax rate.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Donahue, second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one more question. So if, let's say, we have $65,000 in the manager's office there, and we transfer $25,000, the remainder of that, could that go to other departments, or it has to go just to that specific department?
Right now, it's staying in that department. We will come back next week with more transfers for legal, for snow and ice. So whatever is left after the last payment, we're going to come back to you and transfer within to cover as much of snow and ice as we can, so we won't have to put it on.
All right, so I can't take from the mayor's office, let's say, and transfer it to the law department?
You could, in
You
fact.
can?
You can.
You can do that?
Yes.
Is it only at this time that we can do that? Or can we do it during the year, like, let's say, April or something?
You could do it during the year if, in fact, there was enough money in that account to support all the funded positions for the rest of the year.
All right, thank
I would
you.
rather do the other, take it out of the law department and give it to the mayor.
But there were transfers from the mayor's account in this vote. Any further discussion on this?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield? Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the transfer is approved. Subcommittee reports, Councilor Donahue.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, but before I get to that, if I may just, if no one objects, I just wanted to reference the Downtown Summit presentation. I know there was the third event happened, it was in the news, and we have a pretty comprehensive report in the packet, and Mr. Coggins, I know you were involved with it. I don't know if you want to comment, or is it something that makes sense to make a presentation, or what?
We could do either, Counselor. I guess I would briefly say that last Thursday was, in fact, our third and final downtown summit. I think it was a tremendous success. We had over 130 people attend. That audience was made up of residents, downtown business owners, community leaders, and interested stakeholders. The manager outlined in his plan, he actually referenced the 4 working groups that we had in session 2. Those groups focused on marketing, public infrastructure, traffic and parking, and retail retention and recruitment. The plan further identifies both short-term goals that are happening now and over the next 6 months, and then long-term goals that will happen in the next year to 2 years. I'll just touch upon a couple of them very quickly. In the short-term goals, the beautification of the Central Street Island, that actually took place. Commissioner Bellegarde was able to get that done over the weekend. The construction of a children's playground over at Mac Plaza, improving signage. One of the things that we heard was that people have a difficult time getting in and around downtown, so new signs have been ordered. We're going to work on the streetscape, fixing broken lights, adding street furniture, plantings. Those are all some of the short-term goals. The acceptance of the cultural plan that was laid out before the council tonight is a short-term goal. And as was referenced earlier, the return to There's a Lot to Like About Lowell. We have a new website at lowell.org for our marketing purposes. Long-term plans, which actually will take longer, obviously include physical road reconstruction. As you know, the cobblestones are in terrible disrepair on the main avenues of Palmer, Shattuck, Middle, Market Street, so that's part of the long-term plan. Improving the vehicular gateways when people come into downtown, their first experience, their first exposure to downtown, and taking a look at creating downtown as a Wi-Fi hotspot. Those are very brief highlights. What I will say is that the entire plan is actually on the city's website. So if you go to www.lowellma.gov, you can actually download the entire plan. If it's the wish of the council, we could certainly run through that program on another night, start to finish.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it because it's pretty amazing to have that many people sticking with a summit like this, for 3 separate occasions, and some pretty impressive, recommendations and plans for the downtown. So, I'll leave it up to, you, Mr. Coggins, and the manager, if whether it makes sense to bring it back and report on progress as to where we stand. But I think, especially in light of what we were talking about here tonight with the cultural plan, that's a part of this, but everything kind of fits in together, and the improvements, if we're able to achieve them, even the short-term ones that could make a significant difference in the downtown. So
I think they will, particularly, obviously summer is our high tourism season, so some of those improvements you'll see in a matter of weeks.
Right. Thank you.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, I attended the first summit. It was well attended, a lot of excitement, a lot of great ideas, and I want to thank you and the manager and the staff for coming up with this plan. Everyone knows that any downtown is the heart of any community. I just have a question. The manager indicated that it will cost $1 million to implement the first phase. Where do we have $1 million in the budget for that?
We have a combination of budgetary line items that are in the 08 budget, whether that's streets and sidewalks or different line items, within our department. Obviously, the marketing, the council appropriates $250,000 in the DPD line item for marketing. Then in addition to that, we have been the benefactor of a donation through the Lowell plan from an anonymous party to help us achieve some of those short-term goals. So those two combined sources exceed $1 million.
Now, I understand that the cobblestones, they have to be addressed. I don't know how a woman can walk on those cobblestones with any kind of shoes. But that cost is around $2 million, isn't it, to address that?
Right. I believe the manager in his proposal outlined that the long-term goals would be in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million, and those funding sources still need to be identified.
And the state was supposed to come forward with some funding. Is that still there, is it?
Several years ago, there was an appropriation that the state reps and Senator Pangiatakis were able to secure in the amount of $4 million. Governor Romney never released that money. So as I understand it, is effectively dead.
So the funding for the uplift and so forth will come directly out of the budgets and we'll fund it that way?
Some of it will come out for the short term, some of the money will come from a private donor, and some of it still needs to be identified.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Coggins. Subcommittee reports, Councilor Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Subcommittee met this evening to receive a report from Chief LaValle and actually Dr. Brenda Bond, who used to be employed by the Lowell Police Department, is now with Harvard University and will be going to the faculty of Suffolk University in the near future. The report was one that we had asked the chief to come in and give us in terms of policing crime and his approach after his few months here on the job to this. And it was also to take up a matter referred by Councilor Rita Mercier, her motion, addressing issues particularly in terms of crime, violence, and gang activity in the Lower Highlands. We were presented a report of a study that the City of Lowell and the Lowell Police Department conducted in conjunction with Harvard University. It actually began in 2005 and concluded in the fall of 2006. And without getting too bogged down in the report, because it was quite extensive, what the study did do was examine what are called hot spots, or where there are crime activity or high rates of crime activity in the city, and implemented through strategic plan crime intervention, meaning the police stepped up their involvement in those hotspots, and very empirically and strategically, the study documented the effect of that. And in short, what we found, what the study revealed, was that those efforts did produce a result in terms of a reduction in crime in those areas that there was increased intervention over a one-year period. And that, we were also presented with the issue, and it comes back round to our staffing levels. Right now, due to, we're currently budgeted for 244 officers. You may recall at the height when crime had reduced under the COPS program, when we had more officers, we were up to 260. Currently, the realistic number, due to those in the academy, due to those who are out on long-term leave or 111F, we're really looking at 210 to 215 officers throughout the summer. And with it being the vacation time, it's a strain to produce the staffing levels necessary to keep up the high presence in especially these hotspot areas. However, the chief has also told us that he has begun partnering long-term agreements with the federal government, with the Mass State Police, with the Sheriff's Department, including information that an ATF agent has now been permanently assigned to the Lowell Police Department. He's working with the FBI, the DEA. The Middlesex Sheriff's Office with the warrant program has served well in excess of 100 warrants, I believe. And so the report as to the study done with Harvard not only gave us an idea and a snapshot of where we are, but how to approach and attack that in terms of these hot spots. And the police department is doing everything they can to do that. In response to a lot of the concerns that I know my colleagues will address of the neighbors, particularly in the Lower Highlands, the police are doing everything they can to respond to recent incidents of lawlessness, including gun activities. The police in this year alone have taken 39 guns, illegal weapons off the street, mostly through motor vehicle stops. And so they're out there working. But, we were also presented a report, an update for the subcommittee on gang activity. And gangs continue to be a problem. There are two gangs in particular that are feuding, and gangs and drugs count for much of the crime and violence that we see here in the city. For 14 guns of those 39 that I referenced were taken from known gang members here in the city. You know, in response, what the police department and the chief has done is increase the number of police officers assigned to the gang unit. He's increased the days or nights of the week that the gang unit is in operation from 5 to 7 days a week, much needed in this city. 2 of those officers came from the mounted patrol. We know that can be a disappointment to many, but they're being utilized on the street where there's a very serious need as far as gang activity. They're utilizing the Shannon grant to pay for some of this increased patrol and funding. In addition, and in conjunction, the neighborhood impact team has been revitalized, and that has produced results, including closing down a number of houses that are problematic, drug houses or substandard that are really havens for some of these gang people and kids. And so the long and short of it is that the police department is utilizing every tool known to address these issues. We were given a report and a snapshot of gang activity or crime in the city over the course of this year from January to date. There was a spike in April in a number of areas, but back down. But, you know, make no mistake, the chief and the police department are not resting on laurels saying, well, crime has come back down. We all know that, you know, it takes diligence and continued effort. So that was a report of progress. One thing that the chief talked about doing, which seems to be of critical need, and his department will take this initiative, and that is to go out and meet with the neighborhoods, the Lower Highlands, for example, as has been done in the past, outreach to neighborhoods that are seeing these hot spots in there and try and engage the community to work together with the police. So it's a report of progress. As Chief LaValle indicated, this is something that he would like to see a regular dialogue and discourse with the city council and with the subcommittee. And also there was a request made by Councilor Caulfield for update and information as to those individuals who are arrested for illegal possession of a firearm, what happens to their cases. And so the chief said he would do his best to get that information to us and follow up. So that's a report of progress. I know others may want to chime in on it.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was an excellent meeting, lasted close to an hour, and Councilor Donahue did an excellent job chairing the meeting. Was also in attendance was Councilor Milanazzo and Councilor Elliott. Law enforcement is doing everything humanly possible in our city. Chief LaValle, the men and women of the Lowell Police Department, the Sheriff's Department, State Police, the chief indicated ATF is in our city. But it's frustrating, not only for this council, but it must be extremely frustrating to the Lowell Police. When they bring someone down to the courts, and in some cases, they're out on the street before the police get back to the police department. And this has been going on for 18 years. And I'm frustrated. I know my colleagues are. And I've had many calls from constituents this past week, last night. The people are kind of disgusted and fed up with this issue. And I'm happy to see what Chief LaValle is going to go into the neighborhood, have meetings, and move on. I don't think we can address this just with this one meeting. We've had gang summits. We've done everything humanly possible as elected officials. We exhausted hours at the Middlesex Community College. But I just see that as Councilor Rita Mercier call them thugs, are laughing at us. They're just laughing at us, and they're just doing what they want, whenever they want to do it. And it's not like closing the bars at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Gangs are unpredictable. You don't know what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, where they're going to do it. And I just like to see the courts start start playing hardball with them. And if they're arrested for an illegal handgun, they should automatically go into jail for 1 year. No questions asked. Get them off the street. And I'm looking forward to the meeting in the Lower Highlands with the chief.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before this city council meeting started this evening, the Public Safety Subcommittee held their meeting in full view of the viewing audience here. It was televised right here at 5:30. It did last for an hour. It was quite a remarkable presentation by Dr. Brenda Bond as well as Deputy LaValle. I just want to say that even though staffing levels are down, there are a few officers that are out with the 111F. This is a peak vacation time, and even though that the staffing level is at its lowest, the chief assured us that he is partnering with so many so many groups, like Councilor Donahue said, and she did a remarkable presentation, because they're utilizing partnerships to suppress gang activity with the FBI, ATF, with the Sheriff's Department in the Warrant Apprehension Unit. They made 172 arrests in 5 months so that people that are going to do bad things and have warrants against them are not going to laugh at the system and say, I got a warrant, but nobody's going to pick me up. We are picking you up. And we have that message with the chief that even though we are at bare bone minimum, we still have efforts through the state police that come in here, the Sheriff's Department and all, that we want to send a message to those gangs that, yes, we know you're out there, but we will be watching you. I did make mention at the meeting this evening, as far as new areas that are concerned. We had many calls, Councilor Caulfield and I and the rest of the council, for people that are in extra areas outside of that, like Wilder Street and D Street, that people are calling us up saying, gee, I know that you're trying to do the best you can, but shots were fired right by the window where my children sleep, or out in the yard where they play. They could have been outside playing, and we're frightened. And I don't want, like Councilor Caulfield said, I call them thugs, and I don't want them to take over this city. This is not what's going to happen. We're sending a message, and I do know that the chief addressed my motion of the past and the things that we talked about earlier as far as those extra calls in different neighborhoods further down. It's like expanding to other areas. We mentioned Walker Street, Westford Street, Stevens, but now we're getting into D Street and Wilder Street, and people that are not going to take it. And I don't want to hear that they're going to move out. But we do know that they're going to work with the police van. It's in need of repair right now. We are making inquiries to see if we can get it up and running and put it in the strategic points of hotspots so that they are manned by police, so that people know that, yeah, this isn't just the Trojan horse that's in your neighborhood with nobody there. And yes, you can come out tonight after midnight and vandalize it. But yes, we will be watching you. We do have a wherewithal to be on a particular street, but to have a contraption on it that looks down the street and around the corner. So we are watching you, and so it's very difficult, but we have to get on top of it, just like we did with the graffiti. At one time, you look around the city and see graffiti all over the place, and we just let it go, and we couldn't keep up with it. But through diligence and a lot of effort, we got ahead of it so that we discouraged them from continued tagging because they knew we were right on top of it. We got to do the same strategy with these gangs. We don't need to have our taxpayers, our residents in the city living with fear that the next random target will be their children. God forgive us. We're doing everything as a council that we can, and listening to the chief and knowing that guns are being confiscated off the street. 14 were turned into the police department. That says a lot about our city. And although we have the motto, there's a lot to like about the city, we want it to continue in the form of public safety. So that was a good presentation, Councilor Donahue, and I really appreciated attending. So if they rerun it, I hope that you watch it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Well, I agree, and I won't reiterate all that's been said because, but I think the most important thing I took was the chief. The chief is doing different things with the resources that he has, which are limited, and including getting free assistance, if you will, from ATF. There's a new ATF officer in the city that's going to be working on just confiscating firearms and weapons. But that, in addition, he did mention before leaving that he's got the state police assistance in here on Saturday night. And Saturday night alone, the state police wrote 80 citations in the downtown area. So I think people need to know that. I think these public safety meetings that are televised, that people can see either, while they're happening or rerun, to let them know that we're not just sitting on our hands. There is a general fear, there is a general concern on that we all hear, and I hear, with gangs in the city, not only certainly from the people that live here, but also from the people that we want to come and visit. And I think we have to get the message out. The chief also did indicate that he has assigned officers to a 7-day-a-week gang unit that was once just Monday through Friday. They're working 7 nights a week. He's increased the number of officers on that unit, and they're making the bulk of arrests with drug-related and weapon possession. So, I mean, that is where the impact is being made, and I give him credit for doing that. And then even just simple things like 51% of the weapons that are confiscated are being found through simple motor vehicle violations. And he's increased the number of stops, from simple things like taillights that are out to wrong turns, and that has resulted in a 51%. I don't know if it would be an increase, but 51% of the weapons that they have found, it is an increase, are coming from those traffic stops. So it is a positive step. There's a lot of work, but I think we need to reassure residents that we're doing as much as we can. He's having trouble getting staffing levels up, but that will come, unfortunately, after the summer months. But he doesn't want to hire officers that he doesn't feel are qualified. So I think the best thing for us to do is to stay in touch with the chief, have these meetings, and have the public watch them. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything further on the subcommittee report? Motion to accept the report. It's report of progress by Councilor Rita Mercia, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Other subcommittee reports? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go to the petitions. There is one petition. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make an announcement. The flood subcommittee met a month ago on May 22nd and had scheduled at that meeting a meeting 1 month later, which was supposed to take place tonight. It was my mistake for not notifying the clerk and the clerk. Certainly, we didn't post the meeting, so that's my oversight. We did schedule it for 2 weeks from tonight. Some folks came down, and I get some calls over the weekend. We had been waiting a report that did come in the packet this weekend from the PCC subcommittee, so my apologies to the folks. We certainly didn't forget, nor do we think that the issues are not important over certainly in the Beaver Brook area, as well as Shirley and Malden Street, which that would mean that the environmental subcommittee meeting that was scheduled at 5:30 is now going to be held at 4:30. So I just want to let folks know there's been a little bit of change in meetings for those that are watching. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Just on that issue, it's a very important subcommittee. Mr. Clerk, is there some way you can notify those residents about this pending meeting so they'll know about it? Do you want some names or phone numbers? Or?
I have a list of the names of the persons who have attended previous meetings. I know that there's 2 or 3 of those people who are the
If you could do that, it'd be very effective. Thank you.
Well, just to let Council Caulfield know, the chair of the PCC, Mr. Carville, called me yesterday. I spoke with Mr. Belay, who was a ward captain also, and there's an extensive email list that has gone out, and they've been notified, and that's the reason why I also just said it publicly, so those watching will be notified, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. We move to the petitions. There is one petition from Lowell Central Electric to place conduits in Suffolk, Fletcher, Adams, Cork, and Cross Streets. This matter is to be referred to a public hearing on July 10th. Motion is so referred by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to a public hearing on July 10th. Under the motions, the first motion is by Councilor Caulfield. The city council requests the city manager have the traffic engineer investigate possibility of placing a four-way stop at the intersection of Martin and Rosemont Streets. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received a request from constituents in that neighborhood, and they installed a new drainage lines on Martin Street and so forth, Rosemont Street, and they're going to repave that neighborhood, I imagine. The concern is it's a speedway now, and at Martin and Rosemont Street, it's a real bad intersection. Once it's repaved, it will become a raceway. So I think it's incumbent that we take a long hard look at this, Mr. Manager, and install a four-way stop sign there. During the flood 2 years ago, people asked for a four-way stop sign there. So I'm bringing that motion forward. I think it'd be very beneficial to the residents who live there.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests city manager have the proper department place a one-way sign and arrow at the exit of Canal Place onto Market Street. Second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was talking with the residents who live at Market Mills, and as they sit out there in the evening and enjoy the weather, and they make many observations while they sit there. One was that people, namely the visitors that visit people in Canal Place, come out of that street or the driveway or whatever you want to call that area right there, and it's the side of the Roy Garage, and when they come out onto Market Street, they take a left and they're going the wrong way. If we could post a one-way sign with an arrow indicating that they can take a right only, then we can head those visitors in the right direction. That's more or less what they were telling me. And I did see, well, at least once I saw a person coming up the street. So if you're not familiar with the area, you would tend to forget that.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a good motion. I certainly will support it. But on a related matter, the street that's next to Canal Place that actually, it's my understanding, has been reopened as a result of the construction of the new garage on Middlesex Street. Some of the residents at Canal Place and at Market Mills are concerned with some of the cars cutting through in the back of the apartment complex. So I don't know if that's something that you can look into. I don't know if I'm explaining the location correctly, but if you're behind where the National Park Service parking lot is,
right.
There's a street that's been opened up. I don't know, again, if it's a temporary opening because of the construction.
Yes, it goes over
Okay.
Frudenberg Bridge.
Correct, it goes over Frudenberg Bridge, and there's been some
We'll
concerns.
take a look at that as it pertains to emergency apparatus.
Okay.
But we'll certainly look at it.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. The next motion by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the city manager report on the status of the ordinance relative to parking of large vehicles in city neighborhoods. Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that this motion was addressed. I know that it was referred to the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee. I know that it was referred to Solicitor O'Connor. I'm just reminding you that we're looking to see if anything is being done on it. It's just a reminder motion because people that were concerned about those large vehicles parked in their neighborhood, the vehicles are still there and there's nothing being done. And I know that we've been busy lately, especially you, Madam Solicitor, so I know you're busy. It's just that I'm just reminding, it's a reminder motion, because when people call me, then I must do something about it. So I'm just reminding you that we're still anticipating some upgrades in the ordinance. Okay, that's about it. Thank you.
Any? Councilor Caulfield.
If Solicitor O'Connor lets us know when you're prepared, we'll have a meeting on that particular issue on the traffic subcommittee.
Right. As far as the large vehicles themselves, those can be addressed, and I'll talk to the building department tomorrow about removing those vehicles if they're still there. Right. The parking issues and vehicle issues in general, we have had meetings internally on that, ranging from reviews of the placard residential parking, and I'll be making a recommendation to the manager based on that review, and And then I think once the manager brings something in, we can set up a subcommittee meeting. It may be that we're looking at a much more extensive view of parking in general throughout the city, because there seems to be a lot of miscellaneous parking, but serious issues ranging throughout the city, ranging from large vehicles to illegal parking in front of homes, parking on narrow fire lanes, and the list goes on and on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Solicitor. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. The next motion is by Councilor Broderick. City Council requests the city manager take necessary steps to name a portion of the island on Lincoln Parkway for Brian J. Kazanjian. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself. I believe this has to go before the Board of Parks for recommendation, and I'll have more to say when it comes back for a vote. Thank you.
Anything further? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Armin Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the trustees of UMass Lowell provide copies of the report relative to Tsongas Arena. Second by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a motion to follow up the original motion I made to have the subcommittee that the City Council has to work in partnership with UMass Lowell look into and have hearings and invite people to determine the feasibility of maybe someday in the near future that the arena should be or could be and might be transferred to the university. I held back on this simply because the issue that was being mitigated out between Devils and the Riverhawks was in the limelight, and I didn't want to confuse or hamper that progress at all. But now that those two things are in place, and they're temporary as I understand it, I would like to have the report that I understand was put together by UMass Lowell people for the Chancellor-elect regarding the capital requirements and needs that the arena is going to be faced with in the future. If we could get a copy of that and then it'd be sent to the subcommittee, I think it would also help the subcommittee to have a meeting and to begin the dialogue on the original motion I had. Just I don't think we have a copy of it. I don't know if there's one around, but I'd heard some statements on the radio regarding it, and I'd like to see that copy, and I'd like the councilors to have a copy of it. So if we could make that request, either through the manager's office or the mayor's office.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Armin Mercier. City Council requests the city manager have the Board of Assessors report on the status of the pilot program. Second by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, a while back, I had brought in a motion to see if we could get, on a voluntary basis, some payment in lieu of taxes from nonprofit organizations. And the reason for asking for the report is that we did get a letter of thanks from the House of Hope for the action we took, and they indicated that they had made a contribution as a payment in lieu of taxes, which is voluntary. And so I'd like to see how successful we are with others. I know there are some that cannot make it, but I'd like to see a report on who has made it and who hasn't, and then we take a next step.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further discussion on that? No. All in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that it's late and it's hot, but I can't wait for 2 more weeks to bring this in when someone asked me yesterday. So I'd like to suspend the rules in regards to a concern to the upkeep of the concession stand at Colley Stadium. Is there any objection to that? Because we're in full swing of...
It's up to him to find out.
All right. Motion to suspend the rules for this purpose by Councilor Rita Mercier. Second by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you. I received a call today, as a matter of fact, about the chip paint at the concession stand at Colley Stadium. We have a huge amount of visitors at that complex, and the overall picture is one of amazement because it's a remarkable facility and the beauty and the amenities that everybody sees. But the concession stand is a place that they serve food, and it is a little bit beneath the splendor when you notice the chip paint. It leaves an impression that we neglected a very important part of the overall picture. So through you to the acting Mr. Manager here, if we could have the proper department paint the concession stand red and gray, that would spruce up the place a lot more, and to make those volunteers that give of their precious time feel a whole lot better. And I'm thinking that if we do that, that might fall under the credit towards our maintenance of effort. Do you think so? So that's a good idea. It doesn't?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That does count.
Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question for the solicitor. A while back, the council discussed the indemnification with the police department and so forth. Where does that stand in your law office?
We had issued two opinions on that, and I think the manager had also requested an outside opinion, which came to the same conclusion as the opinion from the law department, namely that legally, once punitives have been awarded by a jury, and in this case there was an appeal on the matter, the jury verdict was confirmed, that becomes an absolute bar towards indemnification. That's where the matter rests right now. As far as policy questions, which we had discussed, again, I mean, the policy could only really be to follow the law. These have to be, by their very nature, on a case-by-case basis, and that's essentially what we've done.
So you're saying you won't be bringing anything forward for the council to look at, or?
There's, no, I mean, the council received the opinion regarding the indemnification, and that's as far as it's going to go. There was actually another case that come down in the meantime, which again stands for the same proposition, that once punitives are awarded, it becomes an absolute bar towards indemnification.
Could you send the council a report? Because I can barely hear you. Sometimes I have a hard time hearing. So could you send us a report?
Right. Or what I was just saying was that there was yet another case that came down that again held that punitives are a bar towards indemnification. I can certainly send the council an update on the latest case that has come down on the matter.
We have
Councilor Elliott.
we have received the report, though, correct? I remember receiving the report and the
There were
recommend.
two reports.
There were two, okay.
Correct, right. Yeah.
Councilor Donahue.
We did receive a report, but the subcommittee had sent it back to the manager and the law department, and that's what we were waiting to see if there was any possibility of resolving it, either through the law department, counsel who were involved with the case for reasons that we had discussed in the subcommittee, namely that, we wanted to, make sure, I mean, there seemed to be full support for indemnification on the facts. The issue was the law.
Right.
And so the issue was whether or not there could be some type of resolution or settlement that would work out. And that's where it stood. So, but we did receive those opinions, but we did send it back to the manager.
Okay.
So.
Again, nothing has changed in terms of the state of the law. In fact, if anything, it has become clearer on that point. But I can certainly send the council an update as to where the case is and what the current state of the law is and the new case that came down.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Armen-Messier.
if you are going to bring an update, and I did get the report, could you just explore the possibility of a home rule petition submitted to the legislature to address this particular issue, to see if that's a possibility?
To see if a home rule petition...
If a home rule petition approved by this council asking the legislature to indemnify this person or allow us to. It's a stretch, but I've seen home rule petitions before being approved by the legislature that,
Right. I believe that technically a home rule petition could be filed. I don't know of anything offhand, although I'll look into it further, that would prevent the council from doing that.
Okay.
That being said, there would also be issues associated with that, I think, that would attach to the council in terms of the action of actually going out to seek a home rule petition. One, I believe, was sought and granted for the former governor, Jane Swift, with respect to a matter in which she was involved, which I believe also she would have been barred against indemnification, but for the home rule petition. But I can certainly look into that.
It's an avenue to pursue if the council at some point is unanimous in wanting to take care of what we all feel is an inequity in this particular case.
Right.
Not on all cases, but in this particular one, that's what we're talking about, I think. You just explore it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Councilor Broderick?
Just real brief. It seemed, as I recall, also it was sent back to get some more findings or whatever in terms of what the officer was told and what notice he was given in terms of the status of potential indemnification along the way. It appeared to me, and I wasn't on the council when it initiated, it was a long process, that the law is clear now, and now that the final bell is tolled, in that it might not have been so clear as it went along, and there may be some reasoning there that the city may be able to participate if the notices weren't given and things like that. I think that was, potentially one of the issues that the subcommittee had talked about in terms of finding out afterwards that the final appeal is happened, and now it can happen. Is kind of a harsh way to get notice, and I don't know how it went. I wasn't involved in it, but I think that was one of the issues that we were looking to get some feedback on as well. Because I think you're right, the law is clear as we sit here today. But as the case evolved, I'm not so certain that all the parties were aware of that and what the ramifications might have been. I think just to lay that out there, I think that was one of the things we were looking for.
I'd be happy to address that in the report too. I can tell you that the law has been well settled in this area for quite some time, and I'm certain that it was settled at the time that this case was going on as well, from the Pinshaw decision. But I can put that brief timeline in there for you as well.
Okay. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The meeting stands adjourned.